On today's show, it's not looking great for our Dallas Mavericks, but I'm going to tell you signs that it'll get better on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't even help me.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being in every day and making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Subscribe to our free Locked On Mavs newsletter, your one stop for the best news and analysis on the Dallas Mavericks and the NBA straight to your inbox every day. Check the QR code or the link in the description of the show. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can bet a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today's episode, the Mavs are 5-5. They basically just lost 2 games in a row on the last play. The vibes are not great right now. And the Mavs, it's all over the place. We were complaining on the show last night, the 3-man weave and all that. But I'm going to tell you signs that it'll get better. We'll talk about Dereck Lively. He's coming back soon. We got an update on him today, so talk about him, his impact on the Mavs. The Mavs are a top 10 offense and defense and are 5-5. That's usually a sign that things get better, right? When your efficiency numbers show that you're a much better team than your record shows. Like, I don't know. We'll talk about that. But we got to start here. Luka Doncic. Everything rises and falls on Luka Doncic. Kyrie Irving has been great. Kyrie has been awesome so far this season. He's the second star. He has accepted that role with the Dallas Mavericks and all that. But the Mavericks will go as far as Luka Doncic will take them. And so far this season, I don't think Luka Doncic has been good enough for how this team is set up. This team is set up to win when he is awesome, and to be awesome when he is awesome. And maybe, hopefully, this season they'll be a little bit better than when he's not awesome. We've seen the Mavs win some games when Luka has not shot the ball well. At the beginning of the season, we were coming on here talking about, well, the Mavs have won games. Luka's shooting 35%. Let's see how long that can last, right? We came on here. We're excited about that. Oh, the depth of this team. This is the deepest team Luka's ever had. He shoots 36% against the Spurs, they win. He shoots 22% against the Jazz, they win. 37% against the good team, the Timberwolves, and they win. But how long can that last, right? Like, how long can that last? They eventually need Luka to be Luka. And yes, I know you look at Luka's numbers, and I bet if you're looking at Luka's numbers, you just look at the counting stats, you would say, all right, 28 points a game, 8 boards, 8 assists. Like, he's doing his thing. 28 points feels like that should be enough. Here's the big difference with Luka to me this season so far. His scoring, yes, he is scoring 28 points a game. Last year, he scored 34 points a game. That's a 6 point per game difference, which is a big deal. But even if he was just averaging 28 points a game, his efficiency is not the same as it was. The Mavs are not scoring as efficiently when Luka has the ball in his hand. Hear this stat out. Ready for this? Luka is scoring 105.7 points per shot this season. So like 106 points per shot, okay? Or the Mavs score 100, yeah, when he takes a shot. That's the 35th percentile. That's very bad, actually, if you think about it. Last year, compare that number, the 106 number, compare that to 125 last year. He was in the 95th percentile. Excellent, like really great. When Luka takes a shot, the Mavs score in the 95th percentile. The year before that, 2023, the season from hell, 123 points per shot, 91st percentile. So think about that efficiency. 106 this season, 126 the year before, 123 the year before that. The efficiency is not there for Luka. His scoring is unnaturally low in efficiency. And there's 2 key areas where he's not scoring that I think are great signs that it will get better. Because he's just going to be better at these things. History has shown us that he is excellent at these things. The first one is Luka scoring out of the pick and roll. I posted this graphic everywhere. Go follow Mavs social media, Mavs on YouTube, all that. I'm showing it if you're watching it. Luka out of the pick and roll is averaging 0.8 points per possession. That's bad for Luka. It's average, according to Synergy. Average. Going back every year of Luka's career, he's either been excellent or very good ranking in that. He averaged 1.05 points last year. That was excellent. Year before that, the season from hell, 1.06. That was excellent. So the last 2 years, he's been excellent at this. The year before that, he was very good. 2 years before that, 2021, 2020, he was excellent. Ranked excellent scoring out of the pick and roll. When he has a pick and roll, if somebody comes up and sets a screen for him, whether he takes it or not, he does something out of it and scores or does something with the ball, takes a shot, whatever. He is scoring much better and much more efficient out of those than he has. Even his rookie year, Luka's averaging less points out of a pick and roll per possession than he was in his rookie year. Now, it's only been 10 games, and it's a short sample size, a small sample size so far. But if you just look at that number out of the pick and roll, like, there's no way Luka won't be better at these things, right? He didn't just all of a sudden become bad scoring out of the pick and roll when he came into the NBA as one of the best pick and roll, scorers in the NBA. His first season, he was ranked very good. His rookie, you're talking about Luka's going to be worse than his rookie year? All of a sudden things just changed? No, come on. That's a sign to me that it'll get better. Yeah, it looks bad right now, but that's not going to last the whole season. He's been great every single season. How is it all of a sudden he's going to be way worse? Also, in isolation, same kind of thing. He's ranked average this season. 0.92 points per possession in isolation. Year before, he was very good. Year before that, excellent. Year before that, 2022, he was excellent. 2021, very good. 2020, very good. He's been one of the best isolation, one of the best pick and roll scorers in the entire NBA. That's one of the reasons why people think that he is one of the best players in the NBA. People have said that he is the best player in the NBA. I said he had a chance this season to become the best player in the NBA. Because of those things, his ability to score on the pick and roll, his ability to score in isolation. He can score on anybody. We talked about the reason why he should have been MVP last year is because his buckets are the hardest buckets. And when they're not going in, it looks bad. Like this, like right now, sometimes. Where you go, man, it just is brutal. Luka's averaging the worst field goal percentage. If you just wanted, that's a pretty simple stat. Worst field goal percentage of his career. He's taking 23 shots a game. He's only hit 9.6 of them. That's not good. Right? So the efficiency is not there for Luka. But it'll come back around because we have 6 years of history that show that Luka is very good at this. Whatever's going on with Luka, it'll turn around. He'll get back up. He will eventually figure it out. And when he starts scoring efficiently out of the pick and roll and in isolation, everything else follows suit. It's one of the reasons why I think the Mavs are having a hard time in first quarters because Luka's not scoring as efficiently. He's not coming out and dominating in the first quarter like he did last year. We've been talking about that every postgame. Slightly and I will talk about that. And so if he's not scoring as efficiently in isolation, as efficiently in the pick and roll, the rest of it doesn't follow suit. Teams don't send doubles. How wild was it last night against the Nuggets to see a real bona fide double team get sent to Luka? We have not seen that this season so far. A double team gets sent to Luka. You have Lively or Gafford at the free throw line. They take the ball, then they do something with it, and all of a sudden, boom, you've got offense for the Mavericks. We just haven't seen that as much this season. Luka's has a lot of single coverage, and he's been taking it. He's been forcing some shots, and the shots have not been going in because the numbers show it out right here. Another simple stat. He's shooting 47% on twos. That would be the lowest of his career. So that's the one area. I mean, he's shooting 33% on threes, which is not great either. But 47% on twos would be way low. Last year, he shot 57% on twos. 10 percentage points worse than last season on 2-point shots. The big area that I noticed at the rim, he's the same. The big area that I noticed, though, is the 5 to 9 feet. I had a subtexter, somebody, a Mavs insider, send me a text today. It said, what happened to Luka's floater? It happened during the game last night. From 5 to 9 feet, he's shooting 36%. Last year, he shot 57%. He's shooting 20 percentage points worse from 5 to 9 feet. That floater, that mid-range, that's just hasn't been there for him so far. And then from 3, big percentage drop too. That 20 to 24 feet. He's shooting 24% this year. He was shooting 46% last year. You just want to compare year to year. So Luka will get better shooting that floater. Eventually that will come back to him. That 5 to 9 feet will get better. The 3-point shot will get better. Hopefully get a little better. But the two big things, one of the signs that it'll get better for the Dallas Mavericks is Luka has been average scoring out of the pick and roll and scoring in isolation. Basically the two things he does. And if you think Luka's going to be average on the two things that he does all season, I don't know why you have any faith in this team. But I do, and I think that he will be better in both of those areas. Coming up, let's get into another reason why I think it'll be better for the Dallas Mavericks. They're top 10 in both offense and defense. That's a sign things will get better. I'll talk about why. Coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Mint Mobile. With big wireless providers, you never see what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, something will pop up. You'll all of a sudden your payments magically skyrocket. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month, when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. I can't think of anything that's actually $15 a month anymore, right? Like even like Spotify and some of these other subscriptions are more than that sometimes. All plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk, text, deliver the nation's largest 5G network. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. Mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is, huh? Anybody?
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show and listening. Yes, if you're listening to this on a Tuesday, it is a game day, Dirk. The Mavs will play the Golden State Warriors in Golden State. Klay Thompson's return game. This is going to be a very fascinating game. Klay may take 25 shots. He may take 4 shots. Who knows what's going to happen? The Mavs may try to feed him, try to get him going. I don't know what's going to happen with it. I do know that the Warriors are giving out these Warriors captain hats, and they're awesome. And I think I really want one of those. I'm going to eBay as soon as it's done to see if anybody's trying to give up theirs because those look pretty awesome. So we'll see with the Mavs against the Warriors. Warriors have been pretty good this season, and so I'm interested to see how they play in this one. The Warriors' defense has been good. Their offense, Buddy Hield has been absolutely out of his mind, so I'm curious to see how the Mavs handle that and how Klay Thompson obviously handles the return to Golden State. The Mavs, though, reasons why I think it'll get better. Number 2, Dallas is a top 10 offense and top 10 defense so far. It's just 10 games into the season, but they are, so far, the number 10 defense. So they just, the number 10 offense, they've risen up. They were 15 for a while. We were talking about how they were an average offense. Now they're top 10. Great. And they're 7th in defense. Slipped a little bit. They were 3rd for a while, but now they're 7th. One game can change a lot right now. But that's a sign to me that things will get better. Cleaning the glass. This is the stat site that I use. I like it because it filters out garbage time. It filters out heaves and different things like that. So if Luka takes a shot from 90 feet, right, and it doesn't go in, that doesn't affect the Mavs' efficiency numbers. Cleaning the glass says that the Mavericks should have 1.7 more wins, according to their numbers. If you just took their raw, offense, defense numbers, top 10 in both, they should basically have 7 wins. They should be 7-3 instead of 5-5. They're 1.7 win. That's the lowest in the end. That's the lowest or highest, whatever you want to say, in the NBA. New York should have 1.6 more. Memphis should have 1.6 more. The Mavs 1.7. That's the lowest number in the NBA. Because they've lost these games in the clutch. They're still expected, according to the numbers, to be a 55-win team. If you just took their raw numbers right now, they should still be a 55-win team. They've just come up short in some of these clutch games. And I'm really curious to see how this plays out going forward. But you just look at the games that the Mavs have played even just the last couple of games. The Denver game, they played even in clutch minutes. They played even with Denver. But Denver had the lead going into it, and so the Mavs ended up losing that game. It came down to the last couple of plays. We talked about it last night when it came down to, a Gafford rebound, a foul that shouldn't have been, different plays here and there. A Luka possession that took that heave 3 with a minute left that we were all frustrated about. And it just comes down, the unsuccessful challenge that we thought was crazy. Couple of, missed shots here and there. Gafford getting into foul trouble on some weird plays, and then all of a sudden Gafford has to play defense on Jokic. But they played even with Denver. They just ended up losing that game. Came down to it. The Phoenix game against the Phoenix Suns, the game right before the Nuggets won, It came down to the last couple of plays. The foul that shouldn't have been on Gafford, late against Nurkic. Mavericks led that game with 1:11 left. Nurkic had a drive. Luka kind of stepped out of the way of that one. They ended up getting tied. Then Kyrie had a turnover that was uncharacteristic of him. KD misses a three, but Nurkic got a putback because Gafford didn't box him out. Then Luka hits Gafford on the pick and roll. Mavs are tied with 23 seconds left, and then it came down to that Gafford foul on Nurkic that we all were frustrated about at the end there. It came down to just the bounce of the ball. Ball bounces a different way, and the Mavericks have 2 more wins, right? The Denver game and the Phoenix game. That's just 2 examples. Indiana, with a minute left, the Mavs had cut it to 5. They had no business in that game, but they ended up coming back and were close. Houston, it's a 3-point game with a minute 8 left. That one came down to it. The one clutch game that they've won was against the Timberwolves. That one came down to it too. Bounced the ball, went the Mavs' way. Mavs are 1-4 in clutch games so far, and that will get better. They're too good. Luka and Kyrie, too good. Too good late in the clutch to lose games like this. They're a top 10 offense, they're a top 10 defense, and I think that those are signs that it'll get better for the Dallas Mavericks. It's not the body of work. It's the little things. It's the end of game execution that's killing them right now. And if I'm going to put my faith and trust in anything for this Dallas Mavericks team, it's that they'll be better in these clutch situations. Right? You take a look at what they were last season. Last season, they struggled in clutch at certain points, and then they finished the season 23-9, the second best clutch team in the NBA behind the Lakers. You're saying the second best clutch team in the NBA, maybe the best clutch team in the NBA last season, is going to be worse in the clutch, like absolutely garbage in the clutch this season, right? They might be average, but they're not going to be garbage in it all of a sudden. Especially considering the body of work in the rest of the games. They didn't all of a sudden, they didn't lose a superstar. So, for all those reasons, I think that it will be a little bit better for the Mavericks. They have a top 10 offense so far because, Kyrie has been awesome. Luka is still putting up crazy stats. The Mavs have a bunch of guys they can just throw at you. Kid has been throwing out a bunch of offensive lineups. I think that has really affected the Mavs so far this season. He's been, throwing out the multi-guard lineups that we hate, but he's been trying to goose their offense a little bit. And they've played these games where their offense has actually been the best against some of the best teams. Phoenix, Minnesota, Denver, Indiana. Those are the 4 best offensive games the Mavs have played so far. And that's when their offense has been the best against some of the best teams. They're still rising to the occasion. It's just not coming down to it for them. Now, they got a couple losses that are, confounding, right? The Houston loss, the first Phoenix loss, and then Indiana, Denver, Phoenix are their other, losses. And those, they just came up to it and had a bad night defensively. Their defense is it's been boosted a little bit by playing some bad teams early. Chicago, their best defensive game of the year. San Antonio, Orlando without Paolo. Utah, those are their 4 best defensive games. So they're benefiting from playing some of those bad teams. But everybody does, right? They had an okay defensive game against Houston. They actually had a bad defensive game against Minnesota in their win, but they ended up getting the win. They can win games like that. So top 10 in both offense and defense. I think that's something that the Mavs should really look at and be proud of and say, all right, this is a reason why it's going to get better. We're doing some of the right stuff. It's just going to come down to how do we win games in the clutch? Or is there anything we can do to push this further even more? How can we build up a lead so we're not in these clutch situations so much? Sometimes against really good teams, you really got no chance, right? They've also dealt with injuries. I think that's something to be mentioned. Lively has missed some games. We'll talk about him here in a second. We'll talk about PJ Washington. His absence has been huge. Maxi Kleber. I don't know if I'm going to put too much stock in him. He keeps coming in and out, and I don't know if the Mavs can expect him or hope for him to come back, and that can't be the hope for you. Dante Exum's injury has been exasperated because of how bad Dinwiddie has been, at least production-wise, and how Jaden Hardy hasn't really taken a step forward. And you'd hope that at least one of those 2 guys would have stepped up in that role. But Dinwiddie so far, 35% for the field, 29% from 3. That has been rough. I was very wrong about that. Slightly was very right about him so far. And I'm curious to see how the Mavs handle this, because if he's that bad, how can they keep playing him? He's playing 18 minutes a game. 18 minutes a game playing, scoring 5 points. He's getting a couple assists a game, which is good. His passing has still been okay. He's still got some length, and so that has helped a little bit defensively, even though they're putting him on KD sometimes. But the depth, I think, has really hurt them with some of these, especially defensively in some of these games where they've played their worst defense, because Lively's been out, PJ's been out. Those are their two best defensive players, bar none, right? Naji Marshall is probably up there. I think Quentin Grimes should be up there, but Quentin Grimes hasn't been getting any playing time for whatever reason. But Spencer Dinwiddie, not stepping up in the way that the Mavs need. He did have 14 points against the Pacers. I'll give him that. He did definitely help in that area, but the rest of the games, man, have just been so rough. I mean, brutal. Listen to these: 2 for 6, 1 for 5, 1 for 8, 0 for 5, 0 for 1. Didn't take any shots against the Spurs because he barely played. But yeah, we're a far ways from when he barely played at the beginning of the season. So there's some reasons why I think it'll get better for the Dallas Mavericks. We talked about Luka and scoring. He's going to be better scoring the basketball in the two areas that he's the best. The Mavs are also, as a team, playing pretty well, except for the final 5 minutes of the game. The clutch time comes down to the bounce of the ball a couple times here and there. And if the Mavs flip, one or two of those 4 games that they've lost, we're talking about the season completely differently. We're like, oh man, Mavs have some problems, but they got away with murder a couple times here and there, right? That's how we'd be framing this team. But right now we're framing it as, it's doom and gloom, and we're frustrated because they've lost some of those games that we hoped that they would have won. Coming up, let's get into Dereck Lively. We got an update on him. We'll talk about how he's helped this team so far, but I also want to talk about him coming back against the Warriors. We'll get into that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook is all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place your NFL and NBA bets all in one place. Go check out the Parlay Builder. That's pretty fun. They've also got the NBA Cup. That starts on Tuesday, where the Mavs and Warriors, I guess that's an NBA Cup game. NBA Cup tournament winner, Celtics, plus 400, Knicks, plus 950. The Knicks are so high in all of these. It's kind of funny to me. They've not played that great. Timberwolves, plus 1,000. Cleveland Cavaliers, plus 1,000. Like, how are the Knicks higher than the Cavs? Nuggets, plus 1,100. Thunder, plus 1,200. Lakers, plus 1,600. Mavs, plus 1,600. Warriors, plus 1,600. So if you're feeling good, maybe the Mavs turn it around during the NBA Cup. You can put some money down on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste the hunch with America's #1 sportsbook, official partner of the NFL. All right, let's get into the rest of this. Dereck Lively, we got an update about him from practice. Tim McMahon of ESPN reports that Mavs center Dereck Lively, who missed the last 4 games due to a sprained right shoulder, told me he had a, quote, good practice. Good. Nice. In San Francisco and hopes to play tomorrow against the Warriors. Quote, just got to see how I feel when I wake up, but it's been steady progress and I'm feeling good. He was upgraded on the Mavs official injury report to questionable. And I think that is really good. It's not doubtful, right? There's different levels of the injury report. There's probable, which is what Luka is listed as, probable. There's questionable, there's doubtful, and then there's just out. If he's listed as out anytime before the game, he's just got to be out. It's like official. You can't change it from out, but you can change it from doubtful. PJ Washington is listed as doubtful with his knee injury, but he progressed. McMahon reported that he played 3-on-3 after today's practice. So that's a good sign. Really good sign for the Mavericks that he's practicing and progressing and getting better. Still frustrated that we just haven't heard much about any of these injuries and we didn't know a timetable or anything. We're just kind of waiting, and it's just kind of game to game with some of these. But with Dereck Lively, that's the one that really mattered the most to the Mavericks, because right now the Mavs are 1-3 without Lively. We talked about all last season, all through the playoffs. He was their 3rd most important player, and sometimes people said he was their 2nd most important player, even above Kyrie, which I think is crazy, but it was said. Because sometimes it felt like it. Sometimes they just really needed one more person. They just needed one more defender. They just needed that one linchpin, that one guy to get rebounds, to set screens, and to defend. The Mavs defense so far this season, short season, small sample size, consider that, are 12 points per 100 possessions better when he plays. Their defense is way better when he plays. Now, he's playing against bench units. He was playing with Naji for a while, and that was a good combo. All that needs to be considered. But if I'm going to play the game that we play a lot on Locked On NBA and here, something or nothing, it's something that the Mavs defense is 12 points per 100 possessions better when Lively plays. Let's play the game again. Is it something or nothing that the Mavs' 3 worst defensive games came without Lively? Indiana, 129 points per 100 possessions allowed. Phoenix, 127 points. Denver, 126 points. Their 3 worst defensive games, by the numbers, came without Dereck Lively. PJ missed the Phoenix game and the Denver game, obviously, too. I don't think that's nothing. I think that Dereck Lively just holds this all together, and I think the combo of him and Gafford makes it so the Mavs don't have to play, Dwight Powell or go small. Their small lineups have not defended very well. Obviously, they mostly played against Indiana, and that was their worst defensive game. But you're asking a lot of somebody else to come in and fill that role. So without Lively, they've really struggled, and hopefully he'll be back against the Warriors. He's listed as questionable. I'm excited to see him come back. The other area that they've really struggled, and I've seen a bunch of people mention this, we haven't mentioned this a bunch on here because we have a history on this podcast of saying rebounds don't matter. Not me. It wasn't me, but it was somebody else. That Dallas has been better both on offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds when Lively plays compared to Gafford. Lively has gotten 13.5% of the Mavs' missed shots. Gafford got about 12%. So it's not a huge difference, but he's a little bit better on offensive rebounds. Defensive rebounds, he's gotten 18.6% of opponent misses. And Gafford has gotten 16%. So it's what, like a point and a half on offensive rebounds, and it's 2.5 points on defensive rebounds. But total, you put that together, and all of a sudden, 4 percentage points better on offense and defensive rebounds. Like, that matters over the course of a whole game, especially when the games are coming down to a couple rebounds, right? The rebound against Nurkic, the rebound against Jokic late in the games. Late in both those games, it would have been much better to have Lively, a full 7'1" guy with a 7'7" wingspan, to go out there and grab rebounds, to go out there and make right passes. Gafford has been good, right? But if Lively could be just like a little better, maybe that makes a difference in a 1-point game, right? And so to me, Lively coming back soon is another sign that it could be better. And I'm not even putting Gafford against Lively. I'm just saying having both of them is much better than just having one of them even. And so Lively coming back is another sign, I think, that it'll get better for the Mavericks, that things will get better, that there's a sign that, all right, something coming on the horizon. PJ's on his way back. Lively may come back against the Warriors on Tuesday night. It could get better. There you go. That's ways that I think it could get better for the Dallas Mavericks. Signs that things can get better for everybody overall on this Mavericks team. Check the QR code if you're watching this for different ways to follow us. The newsletter, keep us as the #1 team. The Utah Jazz were right on our tail. We can't have the Jazz or the Kings have more subscribers. So subscribe to the newsletter. Check us out. We'll be back for every single game throughout the season. And Slightly and I will have you on the post game. Isaac will be on there as well. 3-man weaving it, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.